Ghost Machine at Image Comics has the first fully shared creator-owned universes. And we got to attend their panel at Megacon Orlando this past weekend. They just released a comic that's only $4.99 and introduces you to all of the characters that you need to be paying attention to. You can grab this comic at your local comic book shop.
So we're here to talk about this amazing, wonderful brand experiment that you guys have given us, comic book fans, readers, retailers, everyone, called Ghost Machine.
We put everything we have into this, and we're really excited about it. We really are proud of that book, and so to see people pick it up and read it and enjoy it has been really rewarding for us.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Brad Anderson and I were talking yesterday as we were leaving a signing, and we were saying how most of our careers are spent in a room by ourselves. So we produce things, but we don't get to see the users have it in their hands. And when we're doing these signings, we see the effect that it has on people. And we live in a time when there's so much negativity. And when you see smiles, that your work is bringing smiles and happiness to people, that's a pretty hard feeling to top. So we appreciate you more than you know.
Anybody else want to add anything?
Just that Rob's the best.
Uncontested.
And Jeff is always right.
Speaking of Jeff, you and Gary Frank, you guys have worked together quite a bit over the last 20 years, and you kind of got the ball rolling by kind of creating the cornerstone of Ghost Machine in Geiger. What was it like to kind of start that process and see where it could evolve into to start this?
The funny thing is Gary's the only one that couldn't make Orlando, so we know everyone that got Ghost Machine signed by all of us are going to be chasing down Gary for the next year to get it complete. But Gary and I we worked on Shazam and Superman and Batman and Doomsday Clock, and
Absolutely.
we wanted to do a creator-owned book. We did Geiger because Eric Stevenson had asked me to do something over there for a long time, and it was really organic. We just did it. It did well. We had fun. We did Junkyard Joe, and then we started talking. Brian and I were talking, and Jay and I were talking, and all of us just started talking because everyone's like, "Oh, when did you guys come up with the idea of Ghost Machine?" And I'm like, I don't remember the day where we were all like, "Hey, we should do this together." It was all these conversations that happened with all of us wanting to do something new and different, and we love superheroes, but most of the ones were created in the 1960s and 40s, and we wanted to create some new stuff and explore new things together and have more control over it, but collaborate, because we love collaborating. It's I feel like sometimes when you talk about creative control, it's it's only my idea, and that's not what we are interested in. We're interested in just good comics, and so it just kind of happened. So it was, I can't tell you the day it happened, but
it did happen.
But it did
that's
happen.
why we're here.
A big secret. I mean, you could get the same effect probably a million different ways. I've just been doing it the same way for 100 years. So,
he's so
I don't know. It's not a big
there it is.
secret.
He uses
It's just you
layers.
take a different approach when you're doing something for print versus something that's going to stay digital. So that's kind of the biggest issue, technically wise. Yeah, there's definitely a palette like Rook to Redcoat to Geiger, but Jeff's scripts are just top notch. Everything's in there, and I just usually try to go scene by scene to set up. The time of day is a huge effect. Then I can play around with that kind of thing. Not just using blue skies for daytime, that kind of thing, but I really play off, the artist, Brian's art, Gary's art, Jay's, I'm just kind of adding something to their art, basically. But I usually go by scenes. I try to set up each scene, so when you turn the page to a next scene, you know exactly that there's a change.
Well, that's really the great thing about it. Like even Rob was mentioning about collaboration. It's this experience is just allowing us to really I was up with Francis in Toronto for a couple of days. We were breaking Rockefeller stuff. We were sobbing and crying with cool stuff we were coming up with and laughing and it's when you're in the business for this many years as I've been, it's really nice to get away from the front of that computer where you're by yourself. Writing is a great experience, especially when you're in gear and you feel like things are really cooking, but it's isolating, and it's a real specific headspace you need to be in to be a writer, and and kind of move forward on it. So to now be able to like be a part of this company and work with talent like, you know, Peter on the other side here and Francis, and really come in as pure storytellers and not compartmentalize it as just like, this is the script and follow the script. It's really cool to just like, you know, I want, you know, like when we first started talking, it's like I want the artist to be the storytellers. I wanted to. We're both storytellers. There's no specific designation, and we're just, you know, it's kicking ass together and then coming up and crafting it, you know, all at the same time. So it's really a lot of fun, and it's great to not be in that little box all by yourself all day for 12 hours a day. So.
Since I'm on the other coast, on the other side of the Atlantic, most jobs starts with a phone call, as you know. So Pete called me up and asked me, and I was super excited to get a chance to work with him again. And we had to hit the ground running, which I think we did.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing to see where we take this thing. I'm just really happy to be working with him again, and I'm really happy for Jeff and all the guys to give us this opportunity to do this. It's going to be an amazing thing, an amazing ride.
Yeah, Peter's an amazing artist. I mean, if you haven't seen a lot of his stuff, you know, we did Light Brigade together. We did The Mighty. He did some JSA stuff with Jeff back in the day when I was an editor on it. Beautiful stuff, and the Hornsby and Halo stuff is just right away. Just the characters are popping, and he's, and as I said, he's a great storyteller in his own right. So it's really awesome to work with him.
There's also it's really cool. Like Peter's style is very different than everybody. Like we're all very different in style and tone and everything. And I worked with Peter on JSA and a couple other things, and he worked on Starman, which is one of my favorite books, obviously. But the fact that we're global also is cool because we're bringing different perspectives for everything. Like we've got Gary's in Italy and Brian's somewhere in England, and you know Peter's in Denmark and
Some Canadians too.
Yeah, Canadians and Brazil and like just everywhere. New Jersey, the very erotic New Jersey.
Yes.
But it's really cool to be global. The only thing that it's not cool is that our Zoom calls are like all over the place because people are sleeping, so like 7 a.m. But it's really fun to have that kind of global group. Like Ghost Machine is not an American-based comic book company. It's a global comic book company, and that's super exciting, I think, to us.
Well, I think a lot of it is for every 10 times that we make each other laugh, we freaking cry. You know, I think the process of us working is very conversational. And it comes from, you know, I feel like every one of you have sat in a bar and probably, you know, talked stories and what you would do with certain things, right? And a lot of it is very natural, right? We're not exactly finishing each other's sentences, we're finishing each other's sandwiches, though.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's exactly what I was thinking. No, it's a very fluid process, right? Like when Pete was up in Toronto, I opened up Photoshop and I showed him like, hey, you know, I can show you an overview of the entire issue, like as if we were like a helicopter looking down, and we were laying out the entire book, right? You know, so it was a very hands-on process for both of us from the writing and the art standpoint. So it's as collaborative I feel as I've ever been, you know, in a very long time, not since The Flash. So a lot of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to start with the character. So each character has a totem item that they've brought back with them from the future that means something to them, you know, something that they're hanging on to in the future in hopes to get back, right? And visually, a lot of it is just looking for a very clean aesthetic, right? And because, you know, the place they're living in is very sterile, would you say? You know, it's a very suburban environment.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't say sterile, but I would say just sort of average, but you know, mundane.
And you know, potato, right? But yeah, I think. but so much of making something look futuristic is, ironically, sometimes looking back at things in the past, right? So there's something somewhat retro looking about their look, and yet, you know, it's finding ways to make something look familiar and yet new, right? And often you can find that somewhere in the past.
Portraying on the page. So sometimes I'm just staying out of the way. I'm helping to show their words, their speech, and I'm of the less is more, as you can see by my hairstyle approach. But there are times where a certain character, I look at this character, I said, no, we need to have something a little bit more visual added to it. But were I to do that with every character, I would just create so much graphic noise that it would enhance the story, it would detract from it. So I got to know when to lean in and when to lean back.
Well, when I sort of first brought Rook to Jeff, I had a character, but I didn't really know where or what the story was, because I'm not I realized that my brain, I'm not a writer. Like I can come up with some cool ideas here and there, but the way that Jeff's brain works, the way he sees story is different from me. I see more visual, right? So I brought this character to Jeff, and I remember he asked a really tough question. He's like, well, what makes this story? Like, what's the emotion? What's the themes of this? How is this different from what we're already seeing in other science fiction or action adventure TV? And I couldn't really answer that. But the wizardry of Jeff is that he's like, no, let me think about it tonight. and I'll see if I can pitch you something in the morning. And he came back the next day and just pitched this huge epic with really unique kind of things that set their world apart, especially with the whole angle of the animals and the animal masks. That was something that I just had a character who's like a bird, kind of birdish, but I didn't think like, oh, there'll be other characters.
Right.
And we just started riffing, and all these characters kind of came to life. And as time has gone by, we've really kind of delved into that and started to explore this idea of these different characters and different animals. And it was actually interesting because we were talking about how issue 3 was going to end, and I kind of pitched something, and Jeff was like, that's a cool idea, but it's so epic that I don't know how we top that. What if we go this direction? And that opened up a whole new world for us, with all these expanding this universe and the characters. And we've talked about how it kind of reminds us a little bit of the color spectrum from Green Lantern.
Yes.
And how people would kind of latch on to different, somebody might be like, well, I really like the red lanterns, or I really like the blue lantern. Like they kind of attach themselves to those things. And we kind of feel that might happen with these animal characters, because everybody has a favorite animal, and they all relate to different animals. Some people are dog people, some people are cat people, some people like birds, and that opens up some interesting avenues for us, and playing off of those kind of the stereotypical, like swine. I love how Jeff makes a little joke about him having bad hygiene. Well, it's like, well, he's taken on the personality and the traits of a pig, and it's fun.
Yeah, Swine's like, he's the guy in the pig mask, and I basically say it's like if Pigpen grew up and like became like this epic sci-fi hero, that'd be Swine.
Yeah. So again, it's a lot of fun to explore this and just see where it goes, and it'll be fun to see where this goes as we go year to year and expand this universe. I'm sure it's going to change a lot and evolve, but that's the fun of storytelling.
From that perspective, ever since I was extremely young, like infant young, I've been an English person living American culture. Right. So all the TV shows, all the books, the novels, the comic books, the music, the movies, it was all American. And even if I have an interest in American history, it's always going to have the perspective as an outsider. So Jeff keeps saying Simon's me in personality, and whilst I do plan to live forever, I think Simon's going to be more successful at it than I'm going to turn out to be. But Simon has this. It's somewhat built on a thing my wife said to me once when I said that I'd learned from all my mistakes, and she said, "Yeah, you can repeat them almost exactly." and that is Simon. He's failing to learn from. I mean, we all try to learn from our mistakes, but most of the time, I think we fail, and we have occasional glimmers of personal evolution, and in our aims to try and be better people, live better lives. We have anywhere up to kind of 90 years maybe to try and do that. Simon's got centuries, and he just really doesn't do it. Simon's accidentally fallen into this extraordinary world of magical alternative American history. When we first started talking about the book in conceptual terms, and even 2 years ago when we did the previous story in Geiger, I think I was looking at it a little more seriously, both in terms, I mean, you can see that in the very first drawing I did of Redcoat. Simon he's a very serious looking man. And that's changed a lot, especially for me and how I view how the character in his world is. Mostly because I think I stopped looking at it as a historical piece. We talked about American history, but for me it's magical fantasy, really. The set dressing is whatever time period we set a story in. And we've talked about whether we do a modern day setting, and actually neither of us want to do one that's set in the present day. The closest we'll probably come is 1970s New York. Okay. It's an interesting period, it's visually it's interesting, culturally it's interesting, and you can say a lot in the story about each of these time periods. But when you start thinking about the set dressing of the costumes, you start thinking of this historical accuracy necessarily, because Einstein didn't look like that when he was 14 years old, you know. But everybody remembers the mad hair, so a kid with mad hair can be Albert Einstein. But Star Wars was a period piece, you know. It took place thousands of years ago. It just happened to be somewhere else. So if you start thinking in those terms, it becomes a very rich, massive, expansive world to drop a character in. And we can jump backwards and forwards. We know Simon doesn't stay dead for very long. So the drama isn't will he survive. The drama is really about what will he learn and how will he evolve. And the day he chooses to save the world, the story's over. You know, his choices are usually run away, have a drink. Steal, yeah. His impulses are fairly base. He's just got caught up in this immense world of magic conspiracies that are affecting world history throughout centuries, from the 18th century to beyond Geiger's time.
Easier for me when I think monsters or demons, because I started working with horror stories and I worked with horror fantasy for a long time. Mm-hmm. But that was in another moment. Now I'm more experienced and I know what to do with my art. So talk with Jeff and understand the story idea and the reference for this universe. It's become easier for me because it's the kind of things I love to do, horror things. And actually the big challenge will be detox the superhero inside me, because I've been working with superhero for 20 years.
Right.
And now I need to change my mind and understand the right storytelling for this universe. But now I know what to do because I'm more experienced. I'm not the young guy drawing for fun, and I know the direction and how to find the right mood for the story. That's the point, because create the things is easier for me talking with Jeff, and we have ideas for all the characters and we know how to make them unique. So that's it.
Writing in TV, you have some restrictions, you might have a budget, you have certain limitations that you just don't have when you're writing in comics. And first and foremost, I'm a storyteller. Right. And I want to tell stories that I care about, that I'm passionate about. And to have the opportunity to do that through Ghost Machine when there's no restrictions, when no one's telling us what to do or what not to do, I can put my whole self into these stories. And Devour is a really personal story to me. Right. So I'm super excited to kind of put that on the page and allow people to see kind of what I'm showing and what I have to say.
Here's the funny thing. Other media and comics, comics is its own universe.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Absolutely.
You have to learn the beats of how to write for comics, and I have a really good teachers. I would say like this is the best class ever, but I'm pretty good at telling the story, and I'm pretty good at getting stories built around characters and connecting with people, and that's the best thing about our stories. It's all about character connection and you finding in any character in the book, whatever universe, you finding the thing that you connect to, and that's the story you follow. Hyde Street and the Solace is a very, like Maytal said, it's a very personal story. For me, it's about legacy and family and loss and a lot of horror, people getting ripped apart, but that's neither here nor there. You will see it later. I can't give it away because it's not coming out for a while, but it is a really personal story because it's about what you learn from your family and what you pass on to your kids and how they get to deal with the trauma from the past. That's pretty much all I can say about
Okay,
that.
all right. You like carrots?
Wait, there is one thing I should say.
Okay.
I almost forgot. Thanks, Jeff. So there is a character, if you have the book, there's a sheet where you see Mr. Oh, look, there's Mr. X-Ray.
Oh.
And you see the magic protection ring, and then you see the character called, you see the 100 colonist soldiers. So my High Street is built around a colonist and not a good person, and bad things happen. And like Hyde Street, all these characters and all these little ads mean something. They will help you, hurt you, kill you, save you. You never know. You just got to watch the book. You got to read the book. See, watch the book. That's what I did.
So I think when you come to these panels, right, we can tell you what's in the comic, but the fun is you came here. All those other people are in the show and they're not here. Screw them. We're going to tell you what's happening here. So we appreciate that, and I mean that. Here's what's coming in First Ghost, and don't put this on the internet.
I mean, it was an immediate, like, if we do this together, we're owning everything together. It just wasn't a question. It was like, it just made sense. So when we put this together, you know, there's other companies out there where they aren't really, they're not creator owned.
Right.
This one's truly shared in every single way. And I think the thing that we've all felt, all of us have talked about it, is that when you own everything together, you're rooting for everybody. Your competition amongst each other is just, I want my books to be as good as they can be because these books are really good. Mm-hmm. Like when I look at Rockefellers, I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. I got to up my game. But it's a healthy competition because if Rockefellers has all this great feedback, and it does, because it's a beautifully written and drawn book, that makes me excited because we all participate in that. We're all rooting for everything. So it's the only way to do it, and it's out of respect because this isn't anyone's vision, company, and it's all of ours together. Working on a show, I worked with Maytal on Stargirl, which is where we met. She's a writer on it, and that collaboration on that show with everybody, we had 250 people on the crew, and all the writers and editors and actors and everybody working together to make something, and it was really great. And that's the kind of collaboration that I love, is that everyone brings different talents, because you had like a costume designer and a DP and director and an actor. And this is the same thing. Everybody has different talents, different perspectives, different experiences. I was talking to Brian the other night, I think last night, just saying, look at all the experience on this team. Because it's not just writer, artist, color. It's like, I mean, everybody has experience. People don't know, like Rob worked in toys, and obviously he's got a brilliant mindset too that he brings to the company, but everybody has vastly diverse experiences up here and perspectives. And so just bringing that power together, the only way to really have a company that is creator owned is if it's actually all creator owned. All of it is. And we're all supporting each other. And that's I mean, that's why we're at Image Comics, because the first 7 are the inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, but we want to take it to the next level. And the next level is we're all united in every single way.
Right.
We're all rooting for each other. We're all helping each other. There's, you know, these cons are like, we were talking like, they're like summer camp for us. We come here, we have an awesome time, like, oh, then we're gonna like, we have to go away and we can't wait to get back together again. And when we see each other, it's like those cousins you see once in a while.
That's right.
But you're like, oh yeah, like you can't wait. That's what this feels like. And that's what makes it special. There's so many aspects of this beyond the business side, beyond the creative side, that I think were unexpected for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's truly been the best experience I've ever had. And also, again, creative, I think what we've learned is that true creative control doesn't exist without business control.
Right.
And it's not because, again, we want it our way or the highway. We just want to be able to talk amongst ourselves, make a decision that we believe, and do that. And do what's best for us and what we think is best for the books. Like, people are like, at other companies, they'll be like, Ghost Machine 1, you can't do those cardstock covers, they're too expensive. They're gonna cost you money. And we're like, well, that's okay.
Right.
We want the cardstock covers. We want great paper. We know it's more expensive. We know we won't make as much money. We want quality. And we can control that. And so we can make this stuff the best we can possibly make it on every level, and that includes owning it together. We have to do that.
Jeff and I were having a walk this morning. We were kind of talking about how when you're younger and you get into comics, like your only real thought is like, well, I want to work on Batman or Superman or Spider-Man. I want to work on those A+ characters to kind of give yourself some legitimacy, I guess. But also, I've always looked at it like I wanted to build legacy and leave a bit of a mark on the industry. And I've been blessed. Like it's an honor to say like I got to work on. I mean, my dream coming into comics was to work on Batman. I figured it would have taken me a lot longer to get there. My first ever project professionally was a Batman book.
Right.
You know, and I was just like, okay, you know, like this is interesting.
What an overachiever.
Yeah. It's like, where do I go now? But you know, we a lot of us achieved some pretty incredible things at the Big Two, and we got to work on those dream characters. But as a creative, I was never content with that, because those aren't, Batman's not my creation. He's an 80-year-old character. He's an excellent character. I love Batman. I love that whole universe. And you could play in that universe for a long time, but it's never truly yours. Whereas when you create something brand new, you have a chance to shape and mold that book and to put a bit of you into it as well, and it becomes part of you. It becomes something so personal that you're attached to. I mean, I all I'm ever thinking about is Rook. It's a different beast. It's part of me, and that personal connection to it. It just feels like that's where I've always wanted to go. I've dreamed of doing stuff like this ever since I was a young boy. It was I want to create new things, and I feel we're at a time right now where I feel the world needs new things. We're seeing sequels to sequels to sequels to sequels to sequels, reboots of things that probably should be kind of left alone and left to sit for a while, because people are getting tired of them because it's just in your face all the time. This gives us a chance. We're at that perfect place right now where I think by creating new things, we're going to create new legacy. We're going to create new characters, and we know we're in it for the long haul. We know it's going to take a while to build that audience, to build up the audience, to show, hey, we're in this. We're consistently bringing things out. Come along on this journey with us. We will reward you, especially coming in, like Brad was saying, coming in at the beginning. You know, you're taking a chance on new things. You know that we don't have the power of Marvel and DC characters that kind of sell themselves in a lot of ways because they're so popular. We're starting off with new things, but there's such an excitement to that. I love that idea of taking a chance, taking a risk, and seeing where that goes. And yeah, it's scary in some ways, but I'm also very excited about the possibilities of all this and seeing where it's going to go.
Actually, we only met about 6 years. I mean, we've been aware of each other for a long time, but we met at a DC conference, the thing that became Rebirth was when we met for the first time. And we talked ever since about working together, but it was doing something new that really sparked us. We talked about so many potential DC projects, and for one reason or another, we didn't do them, or they didn't happen. So actually working with Jeff and Redcoat was the first time we actually collaborated on anything, and that's, to be honest, most of the time in a career, as lengthy as mine, I think true collaboration is rare. Happened on Ultimates, happened to a degree in Authority, and I think the next time it happened was on Hawkman with Robert Venditti. And I got to the point, I've had a fortunate career. I've drawn a lot of stuff that I wanted to draw, and I've been given pretty much an open ticket to draw anything. But I had felt like I was repeating myself for a while, especially I think when it came to working on stuff that felt like it was related to stuff I'd done 20, 25 years ago. So the idea of working on something fresh with Jeff was actually doubly appealing. But you never know whether you're going to, the alchemy is going to work. It's personality. We both, the different ways of working. And actually, it's been a dream because Jeff's unusually collaborative anyway. So he invites collaboration, and he doesn't. If you have a note, a thought, or even something that could be construed as a criticism, he doesn't take it as such. He doesn't take it personally at all. And in fact, if you say, I have a question about something, he's going to work really damn hard to find a solution to it, but with you. So, stuff changes and grows. Issue 1 of Redcoat should have been about 24 pages. It's currently 39 pages.
Yes.
And that's because we
Same
keep,
price.
Yeah. And unfortunately the same deadline.
I have to say though, like Redcoat's got a lot of action and stakes and intrigue and mystery, but it's got so much humor in it. And the humor comes from Simon just being kind of a goofball. Like, this is the most heroic shot of Simon. But it came out of that humor, and that kind of fun came out of the ridiculous. I think that when Brian and I are talking, I just always laugh when I'm talking to Brian, and Jay when he does his impressions, like last night. But Brian and I just have a great time hanging out and talking, and so the humor of just what it would be like to live forever, there's a lot of actually humor in that, because the things that annoy you probably would annoy you a lot more, and you probably have you probably see things in a totally different light. And as Brian and I worked on this book, the humor the fun I have with him just leaped into the scripts and into our conversations, and Simon suddenly became like a hoot of a character. Like he's just kind of like a really fun character to listen to, and when I write, he won't shut up. There's narration because he just won't let me not have him talk. But that all developed from our friendship. And that's the kind of stuff that we're doing here. It's like everything's developed out of our relationships and out of conversations and out of us and what we want to do. And that's, I'm so happy that this is a project that Brian and I got to do. You and I got to do, because this is what we're supposed to, like, I know when I'm working on Redcoat, I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, Brian. Like, we've been trying to figure it out, and I'm like, this is exactly it.
And actually we're talking just how long this is going to last. We're up to about 60 to 100 issues so far in terms of aims, goals, and plans for the characters.
Yeah, all these books were committed to these characters. These are not like, oh, it's Redcoat's 1 through 4 and then we're done. We're on Redcoat. We already have plotted. We've plotted issues and issues and issues out of these books, and this is what we're committed to.
And the thing is, every time we have a conversation about Simon, Redcoat, and stories, new stories occur all the time. So
Like Davy Crockett, Monster Hunter.
That's the one, yeah.